Well, welcome back to Theater School Rejects, which is the name of our podcast featuring me, Doug X. That's one letter X. And
Robert Kyle. That's 4 letters. Kyle.
and people can find you on Twitter at.
Type O Nevermind. Or just find my Facebook.
There's a secret H there. Type OH, never mind.
That's the one.
I would have just put the O. What should put a Shakespearean O? Oh, I would have actually put like 5 O's together. Type O negative.
Then you gotta throw the apostrophes in. And say things like turnt. Oh my gosh. Shakespeare invented the term turnt.
Turnt?
I'm sure that's in something.
What is turnt and what does it mean now?
Oh, get turnt up. The party getting turnt. It's a horrible thing from clubs and, pop culture.
Robert works in a club. Do you want to tell me which club you work at?
Club and Lounge 54 in Pasadena, voted best dance club in Pasadena 5 years in a row. Featuring 3 floors on Saturdays, half price drinks till 10, and free admission before 9. Also, since the owners are probably never going to listen to this, it is the worst.
Hope this doesn't come up. But aren't you like a were-douche? Like the moon comes up and you turn into a douche to corral the other douches and keep them from getting out of hand? Like not bouncer, but like interface?
I consider myself a douche wrangler. What I do is I get the affluent and attractive people into the club because capitalism is the worst system. And, it's incredibly sexist, superficial, materialistic, pretty much the opposite of everything I believe in, but hey, it's the devil you know.
I posted on his Facebook, because that's nothing more podcast reference or Facebook posts, but I said, I'm looking to date out of my league. I'm a 4 looking to date a 7.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's absolutely true, by the way. It's just as hard. For you 7s out there trying to date a 10, it's nothing for a 4 trying to date a 7.
I consider myself an imaginary number. I'm an italic I. Was that right?
Is it italic? I never thought of it as being italic. It's the I. I guess it's...
Mine will be italic.
Sure. It's a different typeface.
Yeah.
It's that.
Doug actually knows math. I don't. But
I just hosted a pub quiz on Friday, and I had a whole round dedicated to science and math. People actually enjoyed it. Now, the anagram round, that did not go over well.
I'm not good at anagrams. Oh, I know. Something I did want to talk about. I did start on Donald Trump Necromancer.
Wait, Necromancer in Chief, the novel?
Yes.
Which the first book is Donald Trump Necromancer, sure.
Yeah, and just diving into it, I just want to say fuck you for making me imagine Kellyanne Conway in a gold bikini.
I love that part. Thank you for reading it. You definitely got that far.
Yo, yeah. No, I'll never be able to forget it. It's, pick it up, guys. Shameless plug for Doug's books, but read
It's
those
good.
things.
I wrote it to be exactly the book I want to read, and if you can't trust me, why listen to this podcast? My nickname is Honest Doug, friend to all the world. So, Robert's been bitching at me because I have opinions about superhero movies, but I haven't seen Logan, which apparently is something.
And I feel like of all the Marvel movies ever made, grumpy old Wolverine with grumpy old versions of the remainders of the X-Men, that's made for Doug. That's just perfect. They're grumpy and they're old and they're angry at everything.
I wish I could say that's not how I feel.
But, and of course then there's this tiny child who murders people. And that's just, everything is improved by a tiny child who murders people.
If you're not one of them murdered.
Yeah, true.
What if it's a tiny man-child who wants to murder everything? Because then we have Donald Trump and we're back in my book again.
True. But if they're an actual child, it's a weird trend. You got the Stranger Things, and the in Deadpool we had Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Oh, she was so great.
She was. Now imagine that tinier and angrier, and
But she was great because of Deadpool.
It's true.
Are you gonna pout or are you gonna say something sarcastic? Pout, say something sarcastic.
Yeah. And she had to give it to him.
Kind of got me in a box here.
Yeah. That is I feel the number one most successful a superhero film, not in necessarily its box office, though it got there. I feel it was successful in intent and delivery, made out of made by a true fan for the fans, with a shoestring budget. And I'm sure the next one is going to disappoint me so hard.
Well, so I really like Deadpool a lot, and that's this is highly topical, right? 2017 talking about Deadpool, but to analyze it a bit, I thought what was interesting is the plot is extremely linear, and I think that helped because it allowed you to play off it because you didn't have to worry about plot development, you didn't have to worry about tricks or anything, so it could be very character driven. So I think it has the most linear plot of any superhero movie I've seen.
Yeah, it's a classic revenge story. Is a great framework, and you don't have to worry about the who done it. You know who done it. Well, you end up catching up. He fills you in along the way as he's going about enacting revenge.
And they could play with time, like it went back, like he was here, then went back to the past. But that's because they could do those tricks because the actual plot line, the through line, was he got fucked over, he wants revenge, he goes after revenge, he finds them. And you have some obstacles, like the X-Men kind of half assist him, half get in the way because they don't want him randomly killing people, but everything he does is pursuing revenge. And it's kind of the advantage of having a villain or anti-hero as your protagonist, is that they can be active. Like if you have like an Agatha Christie, or either accidental like Murder, She Wrote, or even a detective, there has to be something to respond to, which means you need a new plot, new villain every week.
Yeah.
Whereas anti-heroes or villains can have their own plot. They want to take over this country. They want to kill this guy. They want to rob this bank. It's why heist movies are so good. You have stakes from the moment. You don't need to introduce a reaction. You can have a through line just by the actions of the protagonist.
Now, this actually ties into a few things. The magnificent bastard trope, which I feel Deadpool was at the beginnings of that. The magnificent bastard, which is best characterized by Rick and Morty. Have you watched it?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm thinking about suing Rick and Morty.
Yes.
One of the characters. So I wrote this book, Dragons, Dark Elves, Dragons, and Dinosaurs, and it's a novel, and it's got this character Magnus, and he shows up in Necromancer in Chief, and he's got a portal device to travel different dimensions, and he created the portal device to try and impress his ex-girlfriend who he cheated on, and he's an asshole, and he's a self-admitted asshole with a device to travel between dimensions, and he's really smart. Okay, I realize Rick and Morty may not have stolen the idea, but maybe they did. My book was published 5 years ago. I mean, it's entirely possible. They read it and hey, let's make a TV show out of this.
Justin Roiland, we're looking at you.
Fucker. Anyway, so you're saying, yes, so is that a thing? Is that for on tropes, tvtropes.com or something, Magnificent Bastard?
Yes, indeed, and it's become super popular now. BoJack Horseman, Rick of Rick and Morty, those kinds of characters, which people don't realize are cautionary tales. You're not supposed to emulate them. You're supposed to learn from their misadventures and pity them. But
well, I don't go to tvtropes.com, but I'm talking about just a difference of, and I'm sorry if this turning into a lecture, but it's is that you have either an active protagonist or a responsive protagonist. And I say protagonist because I'm including heroes, anti-heroes, villains, whatever you want to do, but whoever you're following as the main character, if you're following the story of Napoleon, he's active. He's taken over France. After he's over France, he's conquering the world. He's active. Whereas if you're someone like Wellington is more of a typical hero story. He's being pissed on by all the upper class officers and still being pissed on because he's winning. And they're you're making us look bad, you douchebag, stop winning. But he keeps on winning, and then they're well, crap, maybe we need him to beat the Napoleon, fuck. And then they're winning, classism, winning, it's kind of a good view of today's politics. You got the Republicans, and they're classism, tax cuts, or losing a nuclear war. And they're fuck, which do we want more? So this isn't new. 2017 is a pretty good reflection of 1812, the whole world.
I'm liking this fiction we've got going on. I think it deserves a treatment. Writing Napoleon as a magnificent bastard.
He was I don't know so I've read when I was younger, sort of trying to be self-educated and autodidact, if you let me use a fancy term, was I would read biographies as a good way of learning history with kind of a through line, a personalized story. And Napoleon got his start like as a leadership in the revolution because, well, the people of the revolution turned out to be a little bit corrupt, as people in the revolution will be, and there was other revolutionaries, other peasants who were rioting against them, and they said, we need an officer, a military officer, who will fire on his own people. And they're like, well, who would do that? What patriotic French would fire on the people who are the revolution? Hey, that guy Napoleon. I bet he would do it.
Who was, by the way, of average height. I don't know. I feel like the listenership of this probably past those old wives' tales. But
well, yeah, that was all propaganda to make him. He was totally average height, but he was willing to shoot his own people, and that's the kind of ruthlessness you need to take over the world.
That's actually, now that I think about it, you just make him over analytical and curmudgeon-y, and you've got your next hit animated serial of some kind.
Well, you saw Bill and Ted. Obviously, bogus. What is it? Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, Excellent Adventure was the one with Napoleon.
How great was that Napoleon?
That was awesome. Little thing I love about that movie: no universal translator. He was speaking French.
And he was great. He didn't speak one word of English, but he conveyed everything.
Exactly.
I mean, probably not accurate, but he conveyed a great Napoleon without speaking a single word of English.
A bit cartoonish, again, the height thing, but it was great. Like his attitude and everything. It was a fantastic role.
Where did that actor go from there?
Good question. I'll have to look that up. We should have like
for our next podcast, we will tell you the IMDb resume of Napoleon from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I am hoping he went on to win an Oscar as Best Supporting Actor. It's like we didn't recognize him in.
I'm pretty sure it's not Gary Oldman, but there's always like a good 30% chance who played that role? It's Gary Oldman. Never even realized.
Well, did you see the Crawl?
A long time ago, but yes.
Right. So a movie that no one knows about, right? And I loved it mostly because the weapon, the glaive, was a D&D weapon.
Yes.
Not like the actual D&D weapon, but it had the name of a glaive gazarm, which was a D&D polearm. And I read the Alan Dean Forster novel adaptation, which is better than the movie because it's Alan Dean fucking Foster. But anyway, Liam Neeson, the action hero.
Oh God, was that him?
He has a small part. He's not the lead. He's if you want to look for the Liam Neeson start in acting, he's a bandit in Crawl.
That's amazing. Yeah, you see that? It's like watching Excalibur, the old terribly British-paced, King Arthur epic, and you see, Sir Patrick Stewart, and I believe also Liam Neeson was in there as well. In the background. Well, not quite in the background. He had some lines,
but not starring. You're like,
yeah.
Oh man, you just the people who eventually triumph and get in there, but you just everyone has to start small, right?
Yeah.
Wait, but we were far off track.
We started with Deadpool. I was going to go into how I never thought there would be a good Deadpool movie because everything ludicrous gets ruined by people who misinterpret it. Just like all the Rick and Morty fans trying to emulate Rick, missing the entire point of Rick and Morty. And there's so many Deadpool fans who are like, oh, he's crazy. I can do crazy and random and then ruin everything good. And, these are the same people who back in the day when we played Vampire the Masquerade, who would latch on to the Malkavians. Malkavians could be brilliant. Now, this is the Vampire Clan, for those of you who didn't play 1990s gothic horror role-playing games. The clan, every clan had its own weakness. Ventrue could only feed off of certain types of blood. Malkavians always had a mental illness.
Was in the blood.
Yes. That vampire clan, if you were embracing that, you developed, or it worked on, already present, mental illness. And there could be so much good writing there, exploring mental illness. That's the whole series of Batman and all the villains. But there's always the people who's like, oh, I've got a Malkavian character, and he's a clown, and he only feeds off clowns, and he has a cannon that shoots clowns, and did I mention... And he's just like the Joker, except with no. This is why we can't have nice things.
I had a friend who was good at role-playing, but he wanted to run him Malkavian. He wanted to run him as Jokey Smurf. He would keep giving little boxes that would explode. Because, vampires, hundreds of years experience, would not catch on to the thing's going to explode after the first 5 times.
And in your grim, dark, gothic horror with your leather trench coats and velvet vest and clove cigarettes, which we only covered covered are things that Doug hates.
I don't hate clove cigarettes. I hate people who smoke clove cigarettes. And not because they smoke clove cigarettes. Just because, like, well, I guess not a red flag, a black flag. It's like, hey, I don't know why people smoke clove cigarettes. You could just put a sign around your neck saying, I am pretentious.
And
Like, we get it. Especially if you're already wearing the black trench coat and the black boots.
But that was kind of us in the 90s playing Vampire the Masquerade. With our, I mean, most of the people we knew, Little Cat, I'm looking at you, goatee. By the way, it's a pity this isn't video because I have the most ridiculous mustache.
He really does, people. We'll post pictures on Facebook.
Oh God, we guess we will. But yeah, I always point to it. It's like that way, you know, it just makes it easier for people to tell that I'm a douche if I just wear the mustache.
You're a douche wrangler or a wear douche. I could think of it like you get into the club and you morph into a douche.
Yeah, you know.
But like, just for the purpose of blending in order to corral douches. Like, so do you like go on the street and try and gather people in?
Exactly right.
So you're on the street of Pasadena.
It's the lowest level of marketing there is, just literally talking to people face to face as they approach. It's like, hey, come join us 3 floors tonight. Or, hey, the drinks are half price right now. Or, hi, you are physically attractive. Please. And I've actually gotten to the point because I believe in truth in advertising. I help myself to a higher standard where I always tell people the dirty sales tricks I'm using on them. And I'll tell them, hi, I'd like to invite you to the club for free, but this is only because you're physically attractive. And having physically attractive people in the club makes more people want to pay money to get in the club with the physically attractive people in it. Please come benefit from this horribly materialistic and superficial business practice.
This shit works. I mean, I haven't seen it at the club, but Robert is probably one of the 10 best salespeople on the planet.
Aww.
Just fucking ridiculously talented. And, you know, that's not like the sum of his talents, but it's one of his talents. It might be the commercial, like, apex of his talents. I'm hoping it translates to being podcastable. But he's amazing. And probably the point is just there's nothing better than there's no better lie than a creatively presented truth. Because it's not a lie. You just put it out there. You say, look, this is what I'm doing. And that's just convincing people. That's not lying. That's just, people respond to the truth as long as it's, presented in a nice way.
I thrive off of that. And if we want to touch on that really quick, just on sales, I had a manager once that told me the first thing you say to people, to strangers, sales pitch or whatnot, they never process. They don't process the words. They don't care. And so we're standing in Sam's Club, and we're supposed to say, hey, did you hear about the great deal we have going on over here? And this sales manager, bless him for the chutzpah, he goes up to these people on this job in Sam's Club, walks straight up to them and says, hey, did you see the big dump I took right over here? And these people did not even blink and did not notice, point proven, at the risk of possibly getting kicked out of the store. Just, you bring up my sales, I have to tell that sales story because, so, just make what you say first, catchy, interesting, or at least sound nice, because they're probably not going to process the words. That's why the first half of this podcast was just us moaning. No, not really.
I thought this was going to be an inspiring story, an important tip. I thought we were going to be morph into how to make friends and influence people, some kind of sales inspiration thing. I thought maybe we could get marketable, but no.
No, just,
your sales tip is tell people you took a dump.
My sales tip is no one cares what you're saying, so stop trying. And that was illustrated in the most ballsy way I'd ever seen.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to end this episode on that inspirational note. No one cares what you're saying as we try and broadcast what we're saying to the hundreds and hundreds of people out there. All right, bye.